Story number 1. Midnight Shadows, the murder at the New Year's party. I still wake up in the dead of night. The memory of that fateful New Year's Eve in 2012 lingering in my mind like the persistent echoes of fireworks fading into the night sky. My name is Alex Martinez, and the night our lives were irrevocably changed remains an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and tragedy, and the shadows that linger long after the countdown ends. Growing up in the vibrant heart of Los Angeles, our family home on Sunset Boulevard was a sanctuary of love, tradition, and community. My parents, Carlos and Elena Martinez, were pillars of our close-knit Jewish community, known for their generosity and unwavering faith. My younger sister, Sophia, was the light of our lives, her laughter echoing through the halls and her curiosity bringing endless joy to our household. That year, 2012, New Year's Eve was meant to be a grand celebration, a time when friends and family gathered to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the new one with hope and excitement. The air was crisp with the promise of winter, and the scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider filled our home, mingling with the soft glow of menorah candles that adorned our dining table. We were hosting a lavish New Year's party, inviting neighbors and relatives to share in the festivities. The excitement was palpable, especially for Sophia, who couldn't wait to watch the fireworks light up the sky and make her wishes for the coming year. On the evening of December 31st, our home was alive with the sounds of joy and celebration. Guests arrived, bringing with them gifts and hearty laughter, their presence adding to the warmth that already enveloped us. The dining table was adorned with traditional dishes, each plate a testament to my mother's culinary prowess. We exchanged gifts, sang songs, and shared stories by the fireplace, the flames dancing in harmony with our laughter. It was a night meant to be filled with love and light, a beacon against the darkness of winter. As midnight approached, the anticipation grew. The clock in the living room stood tall, its hands inching closer to 12. Outside, the city began to pulse with life, the streets adorned with colorful lights and the distant sounds of fireworks preparing to explode in the night sky. We gathered in the living room, glasses of champagne in hand, ready to count down to the new year together. At exactly 12 o'clock, the countdown reached its peak. 10, 9, 8. The room erupted in cheers as the clock struck 12. Fireworks exploding in a kaleidoscope of colors outside our windows. We hugged, toasted, and welcomed the new year with open hearts and hopeful spirits. But amidst the jubilation, a piercing scream shattered the serenity of the night, jolting me awake from my festive reverie. My heart raced as I rushed to the source of the sound, only to find chaos in the hallway. Guests were fleeing the scene, their faces etched with fear and confusion. I followed the commotion to the living room, where the lifeless body of David Thompson, a close friend of the family and a regular at our gatherings, lay sprawled on the floor. His throat had been brutally slit, blood pooling around him in a grotesque tableau. Panic surged through me as I scanned the room for any sign of the perpetrator. Strangely, no one seemed to have witnessed the attack. The partygoers were in shock, unable to comprehend how such violence could erupt in our once peaceful home. The only clue was a lingering sense of dread and the chilling realization that something far more sinister was at play. The police arrived swiftly, their presence a mix of professionalism and empathy. Detectives combed through the scene, searching for any evidence that could explain the unthinkable act. But there were no signs of forced entry, no indication of a struggle, nothing to suggest how David had been killed. It was as if he had been snatched from existence without warning, leaving behind only questions and an unshakable sense of loss. As the investigation unfolded, whispers of theories and suspicions began to spread through the community. Some believed it was a random act of violence, a tragic consequence of the city's darker underbelly. Others speculated about personal grudges or hidden animosities that might have driven someone to commit such a heinous act. But without any concrete evidence, the case remained bafflingly unsolved. Weeks turned into months, and the memory of that night began to fade, replaced by the relentless passage of time. Yet, the mystery of David's murder lingered, casting a shadow over our lives and the community we cherished. Friends and neighbors shared stories of his kindness and generosity, struggling to comprehend the inexplicable void his absence had created. But the unanswered questions gnawed at me, a relentless ache that refused to be silenced. I couldn't let go of the mystery, the sense that something far more malevolent was at play. Driven by a need for closure and the unyielding love for my friend, I began my own investigation, delving into the darkest corners of Los Angeles's history and the secrets that lay hidden beneath its glittering surface. What I uncovered was a tapestry of hidden tensions and unexplored connections. David had been more than just a friend. He had been a seeker of truths, delving into ancient texts and esoteric studies that spoke of the thin veil between our world and the supernatural. I discovered that he had recently taken an interest in rituals and practices that were meant to protect against malevolent forces. But something had gone terribly wrong. As I delved deeper, strange occurrences began to follow me. Shadows seemed to linger a little too long. Whispers echoed in empty rooms, and a pervasive sense of being watched haunted my every step. The further I went, the more I felt the presence of something otherworldly, a force that thrived on the unresolved grief and fear surrounding David's death. One particularly cold night, as I sat alone in my dimly lit study, the wind howled outside, carrying with it the distant sounds of fireworks that seemed to mock the tragedy inside. The lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows across the room. Suddenly, the temperature dropped sharply, my breath visible in the frigid air. The room filled with a soft, sorrowful melody, a haunting tune that mirrored David's own voice from that tragic night. I followed the sound to the window, peering into the darkness outside. The city was silent, the snow falling softly, blanketing the world in white. But in the corner of my eye, I saw a figure, a man cloaked in black, his face obscured by the shadows. His presence was both captivating and terrifying, his eyes burning with an unending sorrow that pierced through my very being. "Find the truth," he whispered, his voice a mere breath against the stillness of the night. I felt a surge of determination, my resolve strengthening as I realized that the key to solving David's murder lay beyond the realm of the living. The supernatural elements I had uncovered were not just coincidences. They were integral to the truth that had been hidden for so long. Driven by this revelation, I sought the help of a local rabbi and a psychic medium, hoping to bridge the gap between our world and the spirits that lingered in the shadows. Together, we returned to the site of the tragedy, the living room of my family's home, armed with prayers, protective symbols, and the intent to uncover the truth. Under the flickering lights of the menorah, we began a ritual to communicate with the beyond. The air grew thick with anticipation, the candle's flames flickering in response to our chants. As we delved deeper into the ritual, the atmosphere shifted, the boundary between the living and the dead growing perilously thin. Suddenly, the room was filled with a blinding light, and the presence of David was unmistakable. His spirit stood before us, his form more defined and serene than ever before. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice filled with peace. "You have found the truth." In that moment, the pieces of the puzzle fell into place. The ritual David had performed had inadvertently opened a gateway for a malevolent force to enter our world, seeking to claim souls and spread chaos. The symbols found in our home were protective sigils, but they had been tampered with, weakening their power and allowing the darkness to breach our sanctuary. With the knowledge gleaned from our ritual, we performed a cleansing ceremony, banishing the dark force that had taken David and ensuring that his spirit, and ours, could finally find peace. The lights steadied, the shadows receded, and a profound sense of calm settled over the room. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the remnants of the storm, casting a golden glow on our once haunted home. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lingering presence of my family and friend finally finding the peace they had long been denied. David's murder was no longer a haunting mystery, but a story of resilience, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the pain of losing David never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that his spirit is at peace. Our family's legacy lives on, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to overcome even the darkest of mysteries. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of our once happy home, understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love. Honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of Los Angeles, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 2. Midnight Shadows. The Parker family vanishing. I still wake up in the dead of night, the memory of that eerie New Year's Eve in 1959 Missouri haunting my dreams like the persistent tick of a grandfather clock in an empty hall. My name is Jonathan Parker, the eldest son of the Parker family, and the night we vanished remains an indelible scar on my soul, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and tragedy, and the shadows that linger long after the clock strikes midnight. Growing up in the serene town of Cedar Falls, Missouri, our family home on Elm Street was a sanctuary of love, tradition, and community. My parents, Robert and Eleanor Parker, were beloved figures in our neighborhood, known for their generosity and unwavering faith. My younger brother, Tommy, and I were the apples of their eyes, our laughter echoing through the halls and our curiosity bringing endless joy to our household. That year, 1959, New Year's Eve was meant to be a grand celebration, a time when our family and friends gathered to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the new one with hope and excitement. The air was crisp with winter's chill, and the scent of roasted chestnuts and mulled cider filled our home, mingling with the soft glow of candlelight that adorned our dining table. We were preparing for our annual New Year's party, inviting neighbors and relatives to share in the festivities. The excitement was palpable, especially for Tommy, who couldn't wait to watch the fireworks light up the night sky. On the night of December 31st, 1958, our home was alive with the sounds of joy and celebration. Guests arrived, bringing with them gifts and hearty laughter, their presence adding to the warmth that already enveloped us. The dining table was adorned with traditional dishes, each plate a testament to my mother's culinary prowess. We exchanged gifts, sang songs, and shared stories by the fireplace, the flames dancing in harmony with our laughter. It was a night meant to be filled with love and light, a beacon against the darkness of winter. As midnight approached, the festivities began to wind down. Guests bid their farewells, leaving behind echoes of joy and the lingering scent of roasted vegetables. My parents decided to retire early, wanting to ensure that everyone felt safe and comfortable in the late hours. They kissed each of us on the forehead, our hearts full of gratitude for their unwavering love and dedication. I lingered in the living room, watching Tommy drift off to sleep, the soft glow of his nightlight casting gentle shadows on the walls. The house was silent, the only sound being the distant countdown of the new year. I felt a sense of contentment, the warmth of family wrapping around me like a cozy blanket. But that peace was shattered at exactly midnight when the lights flickered and went out, plunging our home into darkness. A collective gasp filled the room as we reached for candles and flashlights, the sudden blackout replacing our celebration with an unsettling silence. The clock had stopped at 12, its hands frozen at the stroke of midnight, an ominous reminder that something was terribly wrong. Minutes turned into hours, and the lights remained out. Emergency services were called. But the power outage seemed inexplicable for such a grand celebration. As dawn broke over Cedar Falls, the sun's rays revealed a house that seemed untouched. No signs of forced entry. No overturned furniture. Nothing to indicate what had transpired. It was as if we had vanished into thin air, leaving behind only our personal belongings and the lingering aura of mystery. The police launched an extensive investigation, combing through the town for any clues, but found nothing. No witnesses, no evidence of foul play, nothing to explain the disappearance of the Parker family. It was a baffling case that left the community in shock. Whispers of theories and suspicions spreading like wildfire, but no concrete answers. Weeks turned into months, and the case remained unsolved. The Parker family disappearance became a haunting legend in Cedar Falls, a story told in hushed tones during late-night gatherings and served as a cautionary tale about the thin line between safety and the unknown. Friends and neighbors shared stories of the Parker family's kindness and warmth, struggling to comprehend the inexplicable void their absence had created. But the mystery deepened with time, fueled by unsettling reports and eerie occurrences that seemed to circle around our former home. Neighbors reported strange lights flickering in the windows at night, as if the house itself was still alive, its memories burning bright despite the tragedy. Some swore they heard faint whispers and footsteps in the dead of night, the sounds of a family that could no longer be found. Driven by a need for answers and the unyielding love for my family, I delved deeper into the history of our home and the surrounding area. I discovered that our house stood on land with a dark past, a place where many had come and gone under mysterious circumstances. Legends spoke of restless spirits and malevolent forces that thrived in the shadows, preying on those who dared to uncover their secrets. One particularly cold winter night, unable to shake the feeling that something was amiss, I decided to return to the house, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a determination to uncover the truth. I ventured into the empty rooms, the oppressive silence weighing heavily on me. The house felt different now, the air thick with an unseen presence that seemed to watch my every move. As I wandered through the dimly lit hallways, the flickering lights casting long, distorted shadows on the walls, I felt a chill run down my spine. The sense of being watched was palpable, the air heavy with sorrow and fear. I reached the living room, where the remnants of the celebration still lingered, torn decorations and the charred remains of candles that once burned brightly. Suddenly, a cold gust of wind swept through the room, extinguishing my flashlight and plunging me into darkness, my breath visible in the frigid air. I fumbled for my phone, only to find it dead, no signal. No battery left despite charging earlier. Panic surged through me as I realized I was completely cut off, trapped in the house with whatever presence was haunting us. A soft whisper echoed through the room, barely audible over the howling wind outside. "Help us!" The voice seemed to murmur, sending chills down my spine. I spun around, my heart pounding in my chest. And in the corner of the room, I saw it, a shadowy figure standing at the edge of the fireplace, its form indistinct yet undeniably human. "Who are you?" I called out, my voice barely more than a whisper. The figure remained silent, its presence both captivating and terrifying. Took a step forward, and I could feel the temperature drop even further, the air thick with an oppressive energy. "Find the truth," it whispered, its voice filled with sorrow and desperation, determined to uncover the answers. I followed the apparition through the house, the shadowy figure leading me to a hidden room behind the bookshelf in the study. The door creaked open, revealing a space that had been meticulously cleaned and organized, as if waiting for someone to discover its secrets. In the center of the room stood a large mirror, its surface gleaming eerily in the dim light. The shadowy figure gestured towards it, and as I approached, the reflection began to distort, revealing scenes of that tragic night. My family laughing and celebrating, suddenly engulfed in flames with no apparent source. I reached out to touch the mirror, my fingers trembling as I made contact with the cold, smooth surface. Instantly, a surge of energy coursed through me, visions flooding my mind, flames, screams, and the overwhelming sense of loss and fear that had consumed us all. I saw glimpses of a dark presence lurking in the shadows, orchestrating the tragedy with a malevolent intent that defied explanation. The mirror's surface rippled, and the shadowy figure reappeared, his form now clearer, eyes filled with an unending sorrow. "You must reveal the truth," it implored. "Only then can we find peace." With newfound determination, I knew what I had to do, to uncover the hidden secrets that had led to my family's disappearance and confront the darkness that had taken them. Armed with the knowledge gleaned from the mirror and the support of the community, I began to piece together the fragments of that tragic night, uncovering a web of deceit and malevolence that had ensnared us all. The investigation led me down a path of unsettling discoveries, revealing connections to powerful figures and dark rituals that had been practiced in secrecy. The truth was far more horrifying than I had ever imagined, a malevolent force that thrived on fear and tragedy, manipulating events to maintain its hold on the living. One stormy night, as I stood before the mirror once more, I felt the presence of the shadowy figure, now a beacon of hope and guidance. "It's time," it whispered, "to confront the darkness and set us free." Summoning every ounce of courage, I performed the ritual I had uncovered, chanting the ancient words that promised to banish the malevolent force and release the spirits trapped within our home. The air crackled with energy, the shadows twisting and contorting in response to my incantations. As the ritual reached its peak, the mirror shattered, the pieces scattering across the room like fragments of our broken lives. A blinding light filled the space, and the oppressive darkness was lifted, replaced by a serene calm that enveloped the villa. The spirits of my family appeared once more, their forms clearer and more peaceful than ever before. "Thank you," Eleanor whispered, her voice filled with gratitude and relief. "You've set us free." Tommy's spirit joined her, his smile warm and filled with love. "We're finally at peace," he added, his eyes shining with happiness. As dawn broke over Elm Street, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the remnants of the storm, casting a golden glow on the once haunted villa. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lingering presence of my family finally finding the peace they had long been denied. The Parker family's disappearance was no longer a haunting mystery, but a story of resilience, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the pain of losing my family never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that their spirits are at peace. Our family's legacy lives on, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to overcome even the darkest of mysteries. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of our once happy home, understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love, honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of Missouri, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 3. Shadows over Times Square, the midnight assault. I still wake up in the dead of night, the memory of that chilling New Year's Eve in 1999 lingering in my mind like the persistent glow of Times Square's neon signs. My name is Michael Thompson, and the night I witnessed the mysterious attack that changed my life remains an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and chaos, and the shadows that linger long after the fireworks fade. Growing up in New York City, Times Square was always a place of wonder and excitement, towering billboards, bustling crowds, and the promise of new beginnings made it the heart of countless dreams and aspirations. My friend, Lisa, and I had been planning for months to spend our first New Year's Eve together in the midst of the city's grandest spectacle. Little did we know, our night would turn into a nightmare we'd never forget. The evening of December 31st, 1999, was electric with anticipation. The air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of hot dogs and pretzels from street vendors. We arrived early, weaving through the throngs of people, our faces illuminated by the kaleidoscope of lights surrounding us. The energy was palpable, a collective excitement for the impending countdown and the promise of a new millennium. We found our spot near the center of the square, close enough to feel the vibrations of the crowd's collective heartbeat. Lisa, always the more outgoing of the two, snapped photos, capturing the essence of the moment, families embracing, friends sharing laughter, and strangers united in the spirit of celebration. As midnight approached, the atmosphere grew even more intense. The anticipation was a tangible force, binding everyone together in a shared moment of hope and excitement. We joined hands, counting down the final seconds with the rest of the crowd. 10, 9, 8. The voices blended into a harmonious cacophony, each number bringing us closer to the moment that would mark the end of an era. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Fireworks erupted above us, painting the night sky with bursts of color and light. Cheers and applause filled the air, the collective joy almost overwhelming. It was in the midst of this euphoria that everything changed. Out of nowhere, piercing screams sliced through the night, freezing the crowd in their tracks. Panic rippled through the sea of people as eyes darted around, searching for the source of the sound. Before anyone could react, a figure emerged from the shadows, an unassuming man dressed in a dark trench coat, his face obscured by the brim of his hat. He moved swiftly through the crowd, his presence almost ghostly against the vibrant backdrop of Times Square. Lisa and I watched in disbelief as he approached a young couple standing near the base of the towering screens. The man targeted them with precision, brandishing a glinting knife that caught the reflection of the fireworks above. In an instant, chaos erupted. The attacker lunged, slashing at the couple with a ferocity that seemed both desperate and calculated. Screams of terror mingled with the fading echoes of celebration as the crowd dispersed. Trying to escape the unfolding horror, Lisa grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the scene, her eyes wide with fear. We stumbled through the throng, seeking safety amidst the chaos. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as police cars converged on the area. The attacker vanished as quickly as he had appeared, swallowed by the crowd and the labyrinthine streets of Manhattan. In the aftermath, the square was a scene of disarray. Police officers cordoned off the area, their presence a stark contrast to the earlier festivities. Medical teams attended to the wounded couple, their injuries severe but not life-threatening. Lisa and I stood apart, our minds reeling from the sudden shift from joy to tragedy. The investigation that followed was swift yet perplexing. The attacker was swiftly apprehended, a man named Daniel Harris, with no prior criminal record and no apparent motive for his actions. He refused to speak to the authorities, his silence adding layers to the mystery. Surveillance footage revealed little, his face barely distinguishable amidst the chaos, his motives as elusive as his identity. As days turned into weeks, theories abounded. Some speculated it was a random act of violence, a manifestation of the city's inherent dangers. Others whispered about personal vendettas or hidden animosities that might have driven Daniel to commit such a heinous act. Yet, no clear motive emerged, leaving the community shaken and searching for answers. But there was something unnerving about Daniel Harris, something that didn't quite add up. Neighbors reported strange occurrences around his residence, unexplained noises, flickering lights, and an unsettling presence that seemed to watch from the shadows. Friends described him as a loner, a man with a haunted past and eyes that held untold stories. driven by a need for closure and the relentless pursuit of truth. Lisa and I began our own investigation. We delved into Daniel's background, uncovering fragments of a troubled history, family estrangements, financial struggles, and hints of involvement in obscure rituals that spoke of ancient beliefs and dark practices. Our quest led us to abandoned buildings and forgotten corners of the city, places where the veil between reality and the supernatural seemed thin. We encountered individuals who spoke of malevolent forces that thrived on fear and chaos, entities that could manipulate human actions and bend reality to their will. One particularly cold night, as we followed a lead to an old, decrepit church on the outskirts of Times Square, the air grew thick with an oppressive energy. The building stood silent, its windows dark and lifeless, yet the atmosphere was heavy with an unseen presence. Inside, the remnants of ancient rituals lingered, candles long extinguished, symbols etched into the stone walls, and an unsettling silence that pressed in on us from all sides. As we ventured deeper into the church, a sense of foreboding settled over us. Shadows seemed to dance at the edge of our vision, and the temperature dropped sharply, our breaths visible in the frigid air. Suddenly, the room was filled with a soft, sorrowful melody, a haunting tune that mirrored the echoes of the night Daniel attacked us. We followed the sound to the altar, where an old, ornate mirror stood, its surface gleaming eerily in the dim light. The melody intensified, and the shadows converged, forming into a spectral figure that stood before us. Daniel Harris, his form ethereal and tormented. "Why?" I whispered, my voice barely audible over the haunting melody. The figure of Daniel looked at us with eyes filled with endless sorrow and rage. "It was never about you," he intoned, his voice echoing through the chamber. "It was the darkness within, the shadows that consumed me." Suddenly, the mirror rippled, revealing visions of Daniel's past, moments of despair, rituals gone wrong, and the insidious presence of a malevolent force that had manipulated his actions. The truth was horrifying. Daniel Harris was not merely a man driven to madness by personal demons, but a pawn in a larger, darker game orchestrated by forces beyond our understanding. Realizing the gravity of the situation, Lisa and I knew we had to confront the darkness that had claimed Daniel and threatened to engulf us all. Armed with the knowledge we had uncovered and the support of those willing to believe, we returned to Times Square, the epicenter of the chaos that had started it all. Under the brilliant lights and amidst the bustling crowd, we began the ritual to banish the malevolent force that had manipulated Daniel and threatened our peace. The air grew thick with energy, the boundaries between the living and the supernatural blurring as we chanted the ancient words of protection and purification. As the final words left our lips, the sky above Times Square darkened, the fireworks momentarily extinguished by the sheer force of our collective will. The shadows retreated, and a serene calm settled over the square, the oppressive presence lifting like a heavy fog dissipating in the morning light. Daniel Harris's spirit appeared one last time, his form now peaceful and free from the torment that had consumed him. "Thank you," he whispered, his voice filled with gratitude and relief. "You have freed me." As dawn broke over Times Square, the first light of the new year illuminated our surroundings, casting away the lingering darkness and filling the square with a renewed sense of hope and resilience. The mystery of Daniel Harris's attack was finally resolved, a testament to the enduring power of truth, love, and the relentless pursuit of justice in the face of overwhelming darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the memory of that night never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that we were able to confront and overcome the shadows that once threatened to consume us. Times Square remains a symbol of hope and new beginnings, a place where light and darkness coexist, reminding us of the fragile balance that sustains our world. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between celebration and chaos, and the unseen forces that can shape our destinies. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of our once happy home. understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love, honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of New York City, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 4. Whispers in the Snow, the disappearance of Peter Parker. I still wake up in the dead of night. The memory of that fateful New Year's Eve in 2006 Colorado Rockies etched into my mind like the intricate patterns of frost on a windowpane. My name is Mark Thompson, and the night my friend Peter vanished remains an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and nightmare, and the shadows that linger long after the fireworks fade. Growing up in Denver, our group of friends, Peter, Lisa, Sarah, Jake, and me, had always sought adventures beyond the city's confines. The Rockies, with their majestic peaks and untouched wilderness, called to us like a siren's song. So, when Peter suggested we spend New Year's Eve camping under the stars, we eagerly agreed, craving the escape from our everyday lives. The decision to camp in the Rockies was spontaneous, fueled by a mix of youthful enthusiasm and the desire to create unforgettable memories. We rented a cozy cabin nestled in a secluded valley, surrounded by towering pines and blanketed in pristine snow. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine and the promise of a new beginning. As we unpacked our gear and settled in, the anticipation for the night ahead was palpable. That evening, the cabin buzzed with excitement. We gathered around a roaring fire, its flames dancing in harmony with our laughter. Lisa strummed her guitar, filling the room with melodies that echoed through the silent woods. Sarah shared stories of past adventures, while Jake and I debated the best ways to capture the northern lights. Peter, always the philosopher, spoke of the mysteries that the mountains held, his eyes gleaming with a mix of curiosity and reverence. As midnight approached, we prepared for the countdown. The sky above was a tapestry of stars, each one twinkling with its own story. The full moon cast a silvery glow over the landscape, illuminating the snow-covered ground and creating long, eerie shadows that stretched across the cabin's interior. We stepped outside, bundled in our warmest gear, and formed a circle in the clearing. The air was cold, our breaths visible as we exhaled. The anticipation was electric, a collective heartbeat pulsing through the group. We joined hands, feeling the warmth of our camaraderie amidst the biting cold. 10, 9, 8. Our voices synchronized, counting down the final seconds of the old year. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Cheers erupted, and fireworks began to explode in the sky, painting it with vibrant colors. The reflection of the explosions shimmered on the surface of the nearby lake, creating a mesmerizing display of light and color. Amidst the celebration, Peter excused himself, his eyes scanning the horizon. "I'm going for a walk," he announced, his voice steady but tinged with excitement. "I want to take in the beauty of the night." We watched as he disappeared into the shadows, the last remnants of the fireworks fading behind him. At first, his absence seemed insignificant, a momentary distraction from our festivities. But as the night wore on, a creeping unease settled over us. Hours passed without a word from Peter, and concern began to gnaw at our joy. "Maybe he's just taking a longer walk," Lisa suggested, trying to ease our growing anxiety. Jake shook his head. "It's been over 3 hours. That's not normal." We exchanged worried glances, the warmth of the fire now a stark contrast to the chill of our uncertainty. The night felt longer than usual, the darkness pressing in around us, amplifying our fears. By dawn, sleep had abandoned us, replaced by a restless vigil. We decided to call Peter, hoping his phone was still charged, but each call went unanswered. the silence on the other end of the line deepening our dread. The next morning, we reported Peter missing. The local authorities took our concerns seriously, dispatching officers to search the surrounding wilderness. Days turned into weeks, and despite exhaustive searches, there was no sign of Peter. The only evidence of his presence was a pair of footprints leading away from the cabin and then vanishing into the dense forest, as if swallowed by the earth itself. Weeks later, the unthinkable happened. A hiker discovered Peter's body in a remote area of the Rockies. Half buried in snow, he was found in a sitting position, his eyes wide open in a frozen expression of terror, as if he had witnessed something beyond human comprehension. There were no signs of violence, no indication of how he had died. It was as if he had simply ceased to exist, leaving behind only questions and an overwhelming sense of loss. The coroner's report was baffling. Peter had died from hypothermia, but the rapid onset and the unnatural stillness of his body suggested something more sinister. The police were at a loss, unable to determine what had led to his demise. Speculations ran rampant. Some believed it was a tragic accident, while others whispered about foul play, pointing fingers at potential rivals or hidden enemies. But no evidence surfaced to support any theory, leaving the case shrouded in mystery. As the months passed, the incident became a haunting tale within our community, a story told with hushed voices and wary glances. The Rockies, once a symbol of adventure and beauty, now held an air of foreboding, the memory of Peter's disappearance casting a long shadow over our lives. But for me, the unanswered questions remained. I couldn't shake the feeling that Peter's death was connected to something beyond our understanding, something ancient and malevolent that lurked in the heart of the mountains. The way his eyes had reflected pure horror hinted at a truth that the world was not yet ready to face. Driven by a need for closure and the unrelenting love for my friend, I decided to embark on my own investigation, armed with determination and the fragments of information we had gathered. I delved into the history of the Rockies, uncovering stories of disappearances and unexplained phenomena that echoed the events of that night. One particularly cold evening, as I stood at the edge of the wilderness, the same spot where Peter had vanished, I felt a presence, a subtle shift in the air, a whisper of movement. The forest seemed alive, the trees swaying in a way that defied the gentle breeze. My flashlight flickered, casting long, wavering shadows that danced before my eyes. A soft whisper reached my ears, barely audible over the rustling leaves. "Help us!" I spun around, the beam of my flashlight cutting through the darkness. But there was nothing, no one, to be seen. The words lingered, a haunting plea that echoed in the silence. Determined to uncover the truth, I pressed deeper into the wilderness, following the whispers that seemed to guide me. The snow crunched beneath my boots, each step taking me further into the unknown. The forest grew denser, the shadows thicker, and an oppressive silence enveloped me, broken only by the distant calls of nocturnal creatures. As midnight approached, the temperature dropped sharply, my breath forming visible clouds in the frigid air. I reached a clearing, the moonlight illuminating a circle of ancient stones, their surfaces covered in moss and etched with cryptic symbols. The atmosphere was thick with an otherworldly energy, a sense of anticipation that sent shivers down my spine. In the center of the circle stood a figure, cloaked in darkness, his presence both commanding and sorrowful. "You seek the truth," he intoned, his voice resonating through the clearing. "But the truth comes at a price." I took a hesitant step forward, my heart pounding in my chest. What happened to Peter? What did he see? The figure raised his hands, the shadows swirling around him like living entities. He saw the veil between worlds tear, revealing the darkness that dwells beyond. The mountains hold secrets that should never be disturbed. But now that they are, the balance has been disrupted. I felt a surge of fear and determination. What can I do to help? How can I bring him back? He gestured towards the heart of the mountains, where the darkness seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy. "You must restore the balance. Perform the ritual to seal the veil once more. But beware, the darkness will not relinquish its hold without a fight. With the weight of his words pressing down on me, I knew what I had to do. Armed with ancient texts and the knowledge I had painstakingly gathered, I began the ritual, chanting the words that would bind the darkness and restore the balance. The air crackled with energy as the shadows twisted and contorted around me, their forms shifting into grotesque shapes that threatened to consume everything. The ground beneath my feet trembled, and the sky darkened as if mourning the loss of light. I stood unwavering, the love for my friend fueling my resolve. As the final words left my lips, a blinding light pierced through the darkness, dispelling the shadows and enveloping the clearing in a serene calm. The oppressive energy lifted, replaced by a sense of peace that settled over the mountains. The figure before me smiled, his form fading into the night. Balance is restored. May you find peace. As dawn broke over the Rockies, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the remnants of the storm, casting a golden glow on the snow-covered landscape. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lingering presence of Peter finally finding the peace he had long been denied. The mystery of his disappearance was no longer a haunting enigma but a story of resilience, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the pain of losing Peter never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that his spirit is at peace. Our family's legacy lives on, a testament to the strength of the human spirit and the enduring power of love to overcome even the darkest of mysteries. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of the Rockies, understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love, honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of the Rockies, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 5. Echoes of Midnight, the mysterious death of John Davis. I still wake up in the dead of night, the memory of that fateful New Year's Eve in 1985 haunting my dreams like the persistent echoes of a forgotten melody. My name is Emily Harris, and the night our friend John Davis met his untimely demise remains an indelible scar on my soul, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and tragedy, and the shadows that linger long after the fireworks fade. Growing up in the heart of Boston, our lives were intertwined with the vibrant tapestry of the local music scene. John was more than just a talented musician. He was the heartbeat of our group, the one who could turn any gathering into a memorable event with his charismatic presence and soulful performances. Our band, Midnight Echo, was the epitome of camaraderie and creativity, each member contributing their unique flair to our collective sound. That year, 1985, John had something special planned for New Year's Eve. He had secured a venue in downtown Boston, a place known for its eclectic crowd and electrifying atmosphere. The anticipation was palpable, especially for me, as I had been tasked with organizing the event. John's vision was to create an unforgettable night, blending live performances with a grand countdown to welcome the new year. The evening of December 31st, 1985, was crisp with winter's chill, the streets of Boston adorned with twinkling lights and festive decorations. Our venue, an old warehouse transformed into a lively concert hall, buzzed with excitement as guests arrived, eager to be part of John's grand celebration. The scent of spiced cider and roasted chestnuts filled the air, mingling with the sounds of laughter and conversation. As midnight approached, the energy in the room intensified. The stage was set, the band was ready, and John stood at the forefront, his eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and determination. The countdown began, synchronized with the flashing lights and the booming sound system. 10, 9, 8. We played our final song of the evening, a soulful ballad that resonated deeply with everyone present. As the last note lingered in the air, John took a moment to address the crowd. "Thank you all for being here tonight. Let's welcome the new year with open hearts and joyous spirits." The crowd erupted in cheers, glasses clinking in unison as we prepared for the grand finale of the night. Fireworks were set to explode outside, painting the night sky with vibrant colors. It was a moment of pure bliss, a culmination of our hard work and dedication. But amidst the celebration, an unsettling presence began to creep into the atmosphere. It was subtle at first, a chill that seemed to settle over the room, the flicker of shadows dancing on the walls in unnatural ways. John, ever the performer, dismissed it with a laugh, attributing it to the excitement of the evening. "Just the energy of the crowd," he said, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. As the countdown reached its peak, we stood together, hands joined, hearts synchronized with the anticipation of a new beginning. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Fireworks erupted outside, their reflections shimmering on the polished surfaces of the venue. The crowd cheered, the sound blending seamlessly with our music, creating a symphony of joy and celebration. But then, without warning, everything changed. A piercing scream shattered the harmony of the night, slicing through the jubilant noise like a knife. The room fell silent, guests frozen in shock as they turned to locate the source of the terror. John stood at the back of the room, his face pale, eyes wide with horror. Before anyone could react, he staggered forward, clutching his throat, his body convulsing in agony. I rushed to his side, my heart pounding in my chest. "John, what's wrong?" I cried, trying to steady him, but John could only gasp, his eyes darting around in a desperate search for something unseen. It's the spell," he managed to choke out, his voice trembling. "You shouldn't have asked. You shouldn't." With those cryptic words, he collapsed, lifeless, in my arms. The room erupted into chaos as panic took hold. Guests screamed, scrambling to make sense of the inexplicable violence that had erupted in the midst of celebration. The police arrived swiftly, their presence a mix of professionalism and disbelief as they began to investigate the scene. The initial examination revealed no signs of forced entry, no evidence of a struggle, and no clear cause of death. John had been stabbed multiple times with a sharp object. Yet there were no fingerprints or DNA evidence to point to the perpetrator. It was as if the violence had come from nowhere, leaving behind only unanswered questions and a lingering sense of dread. In the days that followed, theories abounded. Some speculated it was a random act of violence, a tragic consequence of the city's darker underbelly. Others pointed fingers at personal grudges or hidden animosities within our circle. But no motive could be established, and the case remained bafflingly unsolved. However, amidst the confusion and grief, a deeper mystery began to surface. Friends and band members recalled a conversation we had weeks before the concert, where John had shared an obscure ritual he had read about, a spell meant to amplify creative energies and enhance musical performance. He had spoken of things not to know, of forces beyond our comprehension that could be harnessed through certain incantations. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to John's death than met the eye. Determined to uncover the truth, I delved into researching the ritual he had mentioned, uncovering fragments of ancient texts and cryptic references that hinted at dark, supernatural forces. Late one night, driven by desperation and fueled by grief, I returned to the venue. The warehouse now stood silent, the remnants of the night's celebration a stark contrast to the horrors that had unfolded. As I walked through the empty halls, the chill of that fateful night enveloped me, the shadows seeming to reach out with unseen tendrils. In the center of the stage, where John had collapsed, I found a hidden compartment beneath the floorboards. Inside, there were pages of handwritten notes, John's personal diary entries detailing his experiments with the ritual, his growing obsession with unlocking creative potential, and his fears of the unknown consequences that might arise. One entry stood out. "Tonight, I will perform the ritual. The whispers in my mind grow louder, urging me to push the boundaries of creativity. But I fear what lies beyond the veil. If something goes wrong, we may never see the light of day again." The realization hit me like a tidal wave. John had tampered with forces beyond our understanding, seeking to enhance our musical prowess. But in doing so, he had awakened something malevolent that sought to consume him and, by extension, anyone connected to the ritual. As I pieced together the fragments of John's notes, a pattern emerged, an incantation designed to bridge the gap between our world and the supernatural, a gateway that should never have been opened. The ritual required not just a willing participant but also an offering to anchor the summoned forces, a requirement that had been overlooked in the chaos of that night. Determined to rectify the mistake, I sought the help of a local historian and a practitioner of ancient rituals. Together, we returned to the venue, the weight of our mission pressing down on us. The air grew thick with anticipation as we began the reversal ritual, chanting the incantations that would sever the link between our world and the darkness we had inadvertently summoned. As we progressed, the shadows in the room began to writhe and twist, their forms becoming more defined and hostile. A cold wind swept through the space, extinguishing the candles and plunging us into darkness. The malevolent presence manifested before us, a towering figure of darkness with eyes that burned with eternal sorrow. "You shouldn't have meddled," it hissed, its voice a cacophony of anguished whispers. "Now, you will pay the price." Fear threatened to overwhelm me, but the memory of John and the love we shared for our music fueled my resolve. With unwavering determination, we continued the ritual, our voices rising in unison against the encroaching darkness. The figure lunged at us, but the power of our combined will held it at bay, the incantations creating a barrier that the darkness could not penetrate. In a final, desperate plea, the figure shrieked, its form dissolving into nothingness as the ritual reached its climax. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the corners of the room, and a profound sense of peace settled over the venue. The oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind only the faint scent of burnt incense and the lingering echoes of our chant. As dawn broke over Boston, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the remnants of the night's ordeal, casting a golden glow on the now peaceful venue. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lingering presence of the darkness finally finding peace. John's death was no longer a haunting mystery but a story of resilience, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of overwhelming darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the pain of losing John never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that we were able to confront and overcome the shadows that once threatened to consume us. Midnight Echo remains a symbol of hope and creativity, a testament to the enduring power of music to bridge the gap between the seen and the unseen. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of our once happy home, understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love, honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of Boston, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 6. Midnight Shadows, the attack at the bus stop. I still wake up in the dead of night, the memory of that chilling New Year's Eve in 2014 haunting my dreams like the persistent flicker of streetlights battling the encroaching darkness. My name is Michael Thompson, and the night that forever changed my life remains an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and terror, and the shadows that linger long after the fireworks fade. Growing up in Chicago, the city's relentless pace and towering skyscrapers were the backdrop of my everyday life. My job as a freelance graphic designer kept me busy. But New Year's Eve was always a time for reflection and celebration with friends. That year, however, the night was destined to take a sinister turn. It was December 31st, 2014, a night when the city pulsed with anticipation for the new year. I had decided to spend the evening at a local New Year's party, celebrating with close friends before heading home to my modest apartment. The festivities were lively, filled with laughter, music, and the clinking of glasses as midnight approached. As the countdown began, the excitement in the air was palpable. Collective hope for the year to come. After the fireworks display and the ensuing celebrations, I felt a sense of contentment settle over me. The city lights twinkled outside my window, and I decided to take a walk before heading home. Enjoying the crisp winter air, the streets were still bustling, remnants of the night's revelry scattered like confetti. I found myself walking towards a familiar bus stop near my apartment building. It was a short walk, and I appreciated the solitude it offered after the crowded party. The bus stop was relatively empty, a few late-night stragglers seeking the next bus home. As I approached, a figure emerged from the shadows, a man I didn't recognize. He was tall, with an unkempt beard and piercing eyes that seemed to bore into my very soul. Despite his disheveled appearance, there was something unnerving about his presence. He smiled a crooked smile and gestured for me to join him. "Mind if I wait here with you?" he asked, his voice smooth yet carrying an undercurrent of something darker. I hesitated, the remnants of the night's excitement now giving way to a creeping unease. "Sure, why not?" I replied, trying to mask my apprehension. We stood together in silence for a few moments, the only sounds being the distant hum of traffic and the occasional honk of a car horn. Then, he began to speak, his questions becoming increasingly strange and unsettling. "Do you believe in fate?" he asked, his eyes never leaving mine. I frowned, unsure of how to respond. "I suppose so. Why do you ask?" He leaned closer, his breath cold against my face. "What if tonight wasn't just about welcoming a new year? What if it was about welcoming something else?" His words sent a shiver down my spine. "What do you mean?" He chuckled softly, a sound devoid of genuine amusement. "There are things in this world that go beyond our understanding. Forces that thrive in the darkness, waiting for the right moment to strike." I took a step back, the situation feeling increasingly surreal. "Look, I think it's time for me to go." But before I could move, his demeanor changed abruptly. His eyes darkened, and his smile twisted into something menacing. "You can't leave," he hissed, pulling out a concealed knife that glinted ominously in the streetlights. Fear surged through me as he lunged forward, the blade aimed with deadly precision. I stumbled backward, trying to fend him off, but his strength was unnerving. The attack was swift and brutal, leaving me wounded and disoriented on the cold pavement. The sounds of the city seemed to fade away as darkness enveloped me. Pain coursed through my body, each breath a struggle as I lay there, fighting to stay conscious. Moments later, sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder as police cars arrived at the scene. Paramedics rushed to my side, their faces a mix of concern and urgency. "Stay with us, Michael. You're going to be okay," one of them assured me as they loaded me into the ambulance. As the vehicle sped through the streets of Chicago, I struggled to piece together what had happened. The stranger, the knife, the words about fate and darkness, they all replayed in my mind, a disturbing echo of the night's events. At the hospital, doctors worked tirelessly to stabilize me. Hours later, lying in a sterile room with the sounds of machines beeping steadily, I began to process the reality of the attack. The police questioned me extensively, but I could offer little insight into the motive behind the stranger's actions. Weeks turned into months, and the incident remained a haunting mystery. The attacker was never found. His identity and motives shrouded in uncertainty. The community was shaken. Whispers of theories and speculations spreading like wildfire. Some believed it was a random act of violence, a tragic consequence of the city's inherent dangers. Others speculated about something more sinister, a connection to the stranger's cryptic words about dark forces and fate. But as time passed, the memory of that night only grew darker. I couldn't shake the feeling that there was something beyond the ordinary at play, something that had targeted me for reasons I couldn't comprehend. The stranger's words echoed in my mind, a lingering question that gnawed at my sanity. What if tonight wasn't just about welcoming a new year? What if it was about welcoming something else? Driven by a need for answers and haunted by the fear that the darkness he spoke of still lingered, I delved into research, exploring ancient texts and occult practices that might shed light on the stranger's cryptic message. My quest led me to forgotten libraries and secluded scholars, piecing together fragments of knowledge that hinted at a hidden realm of malevolent forces thriving in the shadows of our world. One particularly cold night, as I stood alone in my apartment, surrounded by books and notes, the room grew inexplicably cold. The lights flickered, casting long, distorted shadows that danced on the walls. A soft whisper filled the air, barely audible yet unmistakably present. "Find the truth," the voice murmured, sending chills down my spine. I spun around, scanning the room for the source of the voice, but found nothing, only the oppressive silence of my own fear. Determined to confront the unknown, I knew what I had to do. I had to uncover the truth behind the stranger's words and the forces that had sought to claim me on that fateful night. My journey led me deeper into the mysteries of the occult, uncovering rituals and practices designed to protect against the darkness that lurked beyond our perception. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I sought the help of a local rabbi and a psychic medium, hoping to bridge the gap between our world and the supernatural forces that had targeted me. Together, we returned to the site of the attack, the bus stop now a place of sinister significance. Under the cover of darkness, we began a ritual to confront the malevolent presence that had threatened my life. The air grew thick with energy, the boundaries between our world and the hidden realm blurring as we chanted the ancient incantations. Suddenly, the shadows in the vicinity seemed to come alive, swirling and twisting in response to our efforts. A chilling wind swept through the area, extinguishing our candles and plunging us into darkness. The oppressive presence that had haunted me now manifested before us. A towering figure of darkness with eyes that burned with eternal sorrow and rage. "You cannot stop us," it intoned, its voice a cacophony of anguished whispers. "The veil is thin, and our time has come." Fear threatened to overwhelm me, but the love for my life and the determination to protect it fueled my resolve. With the support of the rabbi and the medium, we continued the ritual, our voices rising in unison against the encroaching darkness. The figure lunged at us, but the power of our collective will held it at bay, the ancient words creating a barrier that the darkness could not penetrate. In a final, desperate plea, the figure screamed, its form dissolving into nothingness as the ritual reached its climax. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the corners of the night, and a profound sense of peace settled over the area. The oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind only the faint scent of burnt incense and the lingering echoes of our chant. As dawn broke over Chicago, the first light of the new day pierced through the remnants of the night's ordeal, casting a golden glow on the city that had become both my sanctuary and my battleground. The mystery of the attack was finally resolved, a testament to the enduring power of love, faith, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of overwhelming darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the memory of the attack never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that we were able to confront and overcome the shadows that once threatened to consume us. My family's legacy lives on, a reminder of the thin line between safety and fear, and the strength it takes to confront the unknown. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of the darkness we faced. Understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding. Bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others. Cherish the moments you have with those you love. Honor their memories. And be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of Chicago, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace. Story number 7. Flames of Midnight. The haunting of the Detroit fire. I still wake up in the dead of night. The memory of that fateful New Year's Eve in 2010 Detroit haunting my dreams like the relentless crackle of flames consuming everything in their path. My name is Sarah Mitchell, and the night our home was engulfed in an inexplicable fire remains an indelible scar, a constant reminder of the thin veil between celebration and catastrophe, and the shadows that linger long after the embers have cooled. Growing up in Detroit, our family home on Maple Street was a sanctuary of love, tradition, and togetherness. My parents, Robert and Linda Mitchell, were pillars of our tight-knit community, known for their generosity and unwavering faith. My younger brother, Tommy, and I were the apples of their eyes, our laughter echoing through the halls and our curiosity bringing endless joy to our household. That year, 2010, New Year's Eve was meant to be a grand celebration, a time when friends and family gathered to bid farewell to the old year and welcome the new one with hope and excitement. The air was crisp with winter's chill, and the scent of roasted chestnuts and spiced cider filled our home, mingling with the soft glow of fairy lights that adorned every corner. We were hosting a lavish New Year's party, inviting neighbors and relatives to share in the festivities. The anticipation was palpable, especially for Tommy, who couldn't wait to watch the fireworks light up the night sky and make his wishes for the coming year. On the evening of December 31st, 2010, our home was alive with the sounds of joy and celebration. Guests arrived, bringing with them gifts and hearty laughter, their presence adding to the warmth that already enveloped us. The dining table was adorned with traditional dishes, each plate a testament to my mother's culinary prowess. We exchanged gifts, sang songs, and shared stories by the fireplace, the flames dancing in harmony with our laughter. It was a night meant to be filled with love and light, a beacon against the darkness of winter. As midnight approached, the excitement in the air grew even more intense. The countdown began, synchronized with the flashing lights and the booming sound system. 10, 9, 8. Our voices blended into a harmonious cacophony, each number bringing us closer to the moment that would mark the end of an era. 3, 2, 1. Happy New Year! Cheers erupted, glasses clinking in unison as we embraced the arrival of the new year. Fireworks exploded outside our windows, their reflections shimmering on the polished surfaces of our living room. The room was filled with an electric energy, the culmination of our hard work and dedication to making this night unforgettable. But amidst the celebration, an unsettling presence began to creep into the atmosphere. It was subtle at first, a chill that seemed to settle over the room, the flicker of shadows dancing on the walls in unnatural ways. My father, ever the jovial host, dismissed it with a laugh, attributing it to the excitement of the evening. Just the energy of the crowd, he said, though his eyes betrayed a flicker of unease. As the clock struck midnight, something shifted. The temperature dropped sharply, and the air grew thick with an oppressive silence. The flames in the fireplace flickered erratically, casting long, distorted shadows that twisted and writhed across the walls. The fairy lights dimmed, their twinkling now a ghostly glow that barely illuminated the room. Suddenly, without warning, the lights went out, plunging the entire house into darkness. A collective gasp filled the room as everyone reached for their phones and candles. The sudden blackout replacing our celebration with an unsettling silence. Emergency services were called, but the power outage seemed inexplicable for such a grand celebration. As the minutes stretched into what felt like hours, a sense of dread settled over us, replacing the initial excitement with fear. Then, without any warning, flames began to lick the edges of the curtains. They spread with alarming speed, fueled by an unseen force that seemed to defy logic. The house was engulfed in minutes, the fire consuming everything in its path. Panic erupted as guests screamed and scrambled to escape the inferno, their faces etched with terror and confusion. We managed to flee the burning house, our hearts pounding as we watched the flames devour our home from a safe distance. The night was filled with the sounds of sirens, the crackle of fire, and the distant wails of those still trapped inside. We were lucky to escape with our lives, but the questions remained. How had the fire started so quickly? Why were the windows and doors all locked? There were no signs of forced entry, no indication of an electrical malfunction or any other clear cause. The police arrived swiftly, their presence a mix of professionalism and empathy as they began to investigate the scene. Firefighters combed through the wreckage, but found nothing to explain the sudden and devastating blaze. It was as if the fire had been summoned by some malevolent force, leaving behind only ashes and unanswered questions. In the days that followed, theories abounded. Some believed it was a tragic accident, a consequence of faulty wiring or an electrical surge. Others speculated about arson, suggesting that someone had targeted our home out of spite or greed. But without any evidence to support these theories, the case remained bafflingly unsolved. However, amidst the confusion and grief, a deeper mystery began to surface. Friends and neighbors recalled a conversation my father had mentioned weeks before the party, where he had shared an obscure ritual he had read about, one meant to bring prosperity and protection to our home. He had spoken of forces not to be trifled with, of ancient powers that could be harnessed through certain incantations. At the time, we had laughed it off as one of his many eccentric hobbies, never considering the possibility that it might hold any truth. Determined to uncover the truth, I delved into researching the ritual my father had mentioned. My quest led me to forgotten libraries and secluded scholars, piecing together fragments of ancient texts and cryptic references that hinted at dark, supernatural forces lurking in the shadows. The deeper I dug, the more I realized that our family's attempt to harness these forces had backfired catastrophically, unleashing a malevolent entity that sought to consume everything in its path. Late one night, driven by desperation and fueled by the relentless pursuit of answers, I decided to confront the darkness that had claimed our home. Armed with the knowledge I had painstakingly gathered and the support of a local rabbi and a psychic medium, I returned to the remnants of our house, now a smoldering ruin reduced to ashes and rubble. Under the cover of darkness, we began the ritual to banish the malevolent presence that had taken our home. The air grew thick with anticipation, the ground beneath our feet trembling as we chanted the ancient words of protection and purification. The shadows around us seemed to come alive, swirling and twisting in response to our efforts, their forms shifting into grotesque shapes that threatened to engulf us. Suddenly, the flames flared up, yet they did not consume. Instead, they transformed into beams of light that pierced through the darkness, creating a barrier that the shadows could not penetrate. The oppressive energy that had haunted us for days now manifested before us. A towering figure of darkness with eyes that burned with eternal sorrow and rage. "You cannot stop us," it intoned, its voice a cacophony of anguished whispers. "The veil is thin, and our time has come." Fear threatened to overwhelm me, but the love for my family and the determination to protect others from the same fate fueled my resolve. With the support of the rabbi and the medium, we continued the ritual, our voices rising in unison against the encroaching darkness. The figure lunged at us, but the power of our collective will held it at bay. the ancient words creating a barrier that the darkness could not penetrate. In a final, desperate plea, the figure screamed, its form dissolving into nothingness as the ritual reached its climax. The shadows recoiled, retreating into the corners of the night, and a profound sense of peace settled over the area. The oppressive presence lifted, leaving behind only the faint scent of burnt incense and the lingering echoes of our chant. As dawn broke over Detroit, the first rays of sunlight pierced through the remnants of the night's ordeal, casting a golden glow on the now peaceful landscape. I felt a weight lift from my shoulders, the lingering presence of the darkness finally finding peace. Our family's legacy was no longer one of tragedy and loss, but of resilience, love, and the relentless pursuit of truth in the face of overwhelming darkness. Years have passed since that harrowing New Year's Eve, and while the pain of losing our home never truly fades, I find solace in knowing that we were able to confront and overcome the shadows that once threatened to consume us. Our story serves as a testament to the enduring power of love, faith, and the strength it takes to face the unknown. But the memory of that night remains a haunting reminder of the thin line between honoring the past and succumbing to fear. I often find myself reflecting on the lessons learned amidst the silent shadows and the lingering presence of our once happy home, understanding that some encounters transcend our understanding, bridging the gap between the living and the departed with compassion and respect. And so, I warn others, cherish the moments you have with those you love, honor their memories, and be mindful of the mysteries that lie hidden in the places we hold dear. For in the heart of Detroit, amidst the silent echoes of tragedy and the lingering presence of restless spirits, lies a darkness that can consume even the bravest of souls, but also a light that can guide us toward compassion and eternal peace.